A security camera in Ukraine picks up footage of a man walking up to an ATM with a phone in his hand. After hitting a single button, this happens, the machine spits out $10,000 worth of Rivia, which he quickly picks up and puts in his plastic bag. This would mark the beginning of the biggest bank heist in history, where a group of hackers calling themselves Carbanak would steal over $1.2 billion US dollars from the richest men on Earth. But to fully understand this story, we need to start with how these hackers got access to the banks. A Deutsche Bank customer service employee receives an email from an upset customer. Apparently, there have been some withdrawals from his account that he didn't make, and attached is a copy of his bank history. Upon downloading the attachment, the employee is left with an encrypted document. Decrypting this document turns out to be a major mistake, because inside, the hacker group Carbanak has hidden a virus allowing them to access the computer whenever they want to. Through this simple method, Carbanak now had access to their first bank computer. Using the now infected customer service PC, the hackers were able to take full control of the bank's lower-level computers. But this was only step one in their plan. For several days, the hackers spammed background applications on the bank's computers, heavily slowing them down. This was in the hopes that an employee would contact the IT department to get their computer fixed. And somehow, it worked. In order to fix the computer's issues, IT support entered an admin password into the PC. But little did they know, their every move was monitored closely by the hackers, who now had exactly what they needed. With admin control, the hackers now had access to all of the bank's internal systems. In the following months, they would use security footage and their access to the bank computers to track the bank's protocols. They didn't want to do anything that could risk altering the security, so they kept a low profile. During the observing phase, the hackers took control of over 200 of the bank's cameras and watched their every move. Now that Carbanak knew exactly how the bank was run, it was time to begin their attacks. Attacks with an approach so obscure that nobody saw it coming. They have to have physical access to the machine too. So it's not like you can remotely hack into an ATM machine. Carbanak remotely hacked 41 ATMs in just a single weekend, raking in 2.5 million USD in pure cash and leaving no tracks behind them. But this little taste of success made Carbanak hungry. They wanted to go much, much bigger. Carbanak knew that if they wanted to take as much money as possible, they were going to need a much larger team. But that's easier said than done. Criminal hackers don't exactly stroll around looking for jobs to hop on. Or maybe they do. The hacker group's next move was genius. To find their employees, they created a fake security company called Bastion Secure. Here, they created an application page asking for various standard security jobs. And of course, they made sure to look as professional as possible, showing off awards and great employee benefits. Commanded by an unknown source and working from home, these programmers would never fully understand the grand scheme of things. Without the full picture of the gigantic organization being built, very few employees suspected anything. With time, Carbanak was able to garner over 60 new employees to unknowingly work on their heists. Carbanak had now built a team capable of anything, and they were tired of making millions because they were ready to make billions. Their next plan was to move on to bigger things than ATMS. By slowly working their way up the corporate ladder, sending infected emails to higher and higher ups from the company's computers, they eventually managed to strike gold with an executive. And not just any executive, but one with an ability any person should be careful with: the ability to authorize payments. With access to the entire banking system, and now also the ability to send checks wherever they wanted, the hackers began impersonating high-ups in the bank and manually sending huge sums of cash to accounts located all over the world. Through their complete control of the bank's security system, they could easily sweep their tracks behind them. The hackers began taking accounts with small amounts of money, like Jimmy Hare, and inflating them. After reaching a suitable amount, they would send the difference back to their personal accounts. The hackers would conduct these attacks in sprees all over the world, taking an average of $12 million per attack, and leaving some extras for people like Jimmy to enjoy. Over the following 2 years, Carbanak would go through hundreds of attacks on banks ranging all across Europe and Asia, giving them a total of $700 million USD, straight from the pockets of the richest men on earth. The man on the phone was the head of IT in Russia's largest bank, talking to the CEO of the bank's recently hired security team, Kaspersky. At the bank, the head of IT noticed that the bank's domain controller had been actively sending out data. But after checking the history logs, he realized that nothing was being reported. Knowing that something must be going on, the man stayed overtime to observe the domain controller's event logs. Around 3 a.m., the technician's worst nightmare was brought to life. The live event logs showed that encrypted data was being sent to servers in China. Panic erupted after discovering the domain controller had been breached. While a Kaspersky employee was on one of the bank's computers, he noticed applications opening and closing in the background. He therefore drew the conclusion that somehow the supposed hackers had active access to the computers. But why would they? He came to the conclusion that the hackers might be monitoring their movements. It was July 10th, 2016, Taipei, Taiwan. Two Carbanak money mules named Sergei Bosky and Vladimir Berkman made their now weekly trips to the ATM. As usual, money magically came out of the ATM, and the two mules began filling their bags with cash. The man walked up to the ATM and found 60,000 Taiwanese dollars laying there. Unlike most citizens who would grab the money and run, he decided to call the police. In the following weeks, Taiwanese police managed to locate 22 Carbanak hackers, 19 of which had already fled Taiwan after hearing about their crimes on television. However, 3 had stayed. Well, to figure that out, we need to backtrack. When Sergei Brovy and Vladimir Berkman ran away from the citizen during the ATM heist, one man made a crucial mistake. While stuffing his last bit of money into a duffel bag before running off, Sergei's ID fell out of his pocket. When police arrived, they discovered the ID with Bosky's name on it. This allowed the police to trace down where Bosky and Berkman were staying, a Grand Hyatt a few miles from the incident. The hunt to find the hackers behind Carbanak had begun. The now widespread case had every citizen in Taiwan on high alert. Over 500 Taiwanese police officers were watching CCTV footage all over the city, looking for any clues that might lead to more information. And after days of no success, they finally hit the jackpot. On July 11, 2016, a CCTV camera recorded Vladimir Berkman traveling through the Tai train station. Quickly, the police shifted all their focus onto the Carbanak hacker and tracked him for the following hours. After making sure he wasn't being followed, Berkman walked to the luggage lockers of the train station. Here, Berkman hid 2 full suitcases of cash in the lockers and quickly fled the scene. This was the last time Berkman was ever seen. As police continued to observe the lockers, they watched 2 unidentified men walk up to them and take the 2 suitcases. Continuing their tracking, police soon discovered the hotel where the 2 unidentified men were staying, and the next morning they were raided and captured. Police then located 2 duffel bags stuffed with money worth $1.5 million. Finally, the police had something to go by. The unstoppable team had been stopped. Police had captured the first 2 criminals linked to Carbanak. However, this would be nothing compared to what was to come. The same day, in a different part of Taiwan, a police officer named S. Sheng Lang was on vacation with his family. He looked like someone he'd seen on television, or maybe the news. Slightly annoyed at the situation, Sheng quickly pulled out his phone and started scrolling through the news. And there he was, Andreas Perov, the man speculated to be the leader of the Carbanak organization. Their investigation was complete, and the powerhouse these hackers created had finally come crumbling down. After stealing a total of $1.2 billion from the richest people on Earth, the hackers would go down as one of the most impactful cybercriminal groups in all of history. But their run was over. Their leader was captured, their organization was crumbling, and they had lost all footing in the bank's security systems. The story of Carbanak came to an end.